What could cause an economic collapse in 2011? Well, there's quite a few nightmare scenarios that could plunge the entire globe into another massive financial crisis. The United States, Japan, and most of the nations in Europe are absolutely drowning in debt. The Federal Reserve continues to play reckless games with the US dollar, the price of oil is skyrocketing, and the global price of food just hit a new record high. Food riots are already breaking out all over the world. Meanwhile, the rampant fraud and corruption going on in world financial markets is starting to be exposed, and the whole house of cards could come crashing down at any time. Most Americans have no idea that a horrific economic collapse could happen at literally any time. There's no way that all this debt and all this financial corruption is sustainable. At some point, we're going to have to reach a moment of total system failure. So will it be soon? Let's hope not. Let's certainly hope that it does not happen in 2011. Many of us need more time to prepare. Most of our families and friends need more time to prepare. Once this thing implodes, there isn't going to be an opportunity to have a do-over. We simply will not be able to put the toothpaste back into the tube again. We'd all better be prepared for hard times. A couple of reasons, scenarios that economic collapse could happen potentially in 2011. The U.S. debt could become a massive crisis at any moment. China's saying all the right things at the moment, but many now analysts are openly worried about what could happen if China suddenly decides to start dumping all the U.S. debt they've accumulated. Right now, about the only thing keeping the U.S. government finances going is the ability to borrow gigantic amounts of money at extremely low interest rates. If anything upsets that paradigm, it could potentially have enormous consequences for the entire world financial system. Speaking of threats to the global financial system, it turns out that the quantitative easing 2 has had the exact opposite effect that Ben Bernanke planned for it to have. Bernanke insisted that the main goal of QE2 was going to lower interest rates, but instead all it's done is cause interest rates to go up substantially. The debt bubble. The entire global economy is based on it. It could burst at any time and throw the whole planet into chaos. According to a new report from the World Economic Forum, the total amount of credit in the world increased from 57 trillion back in 2000 to 109 trillion in 2009. The WEF says that the world is going to need another $100 trillion in credit just to support the projected economic growth over the next decade. So this is how the new global economy works. We just keep doubling the total amount of debt every decade. It's all based on credit. Okay, as the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve continue to pump out massive amounts of new dollars into the system, the floor could fall out from underneath the U.S. dollar at any time. The truth is, we're already starting to see inflation really accelerate, and everyone pretty much acknowledges that the U.S. government figures for inflation are an absolute joke. According to one new study, the cost of college tuition has risen over 286% over the last 20 years, and the cost of hospital, nursing home, and adult daycare services rose 269% during those same 2 decades. All this happened during a period of supposedly low inflation. So what are price increases going to look like when we actually have high inflation? One of the primary drivers of global inflation during 2011 could be the price of oil. A large number of economists are now projecting that the price of oil could surge well past $100 a barrel in 2011. Now if that happens, it's going to put significant pressure on the price of almost everything else in the global economy. Food inflation. It's already so bad in some areas that it's setting off massive food riots in nations such as Tunisia and Algeria. In fact, there have been reports of people setting themselves on fire all over the Middle East as a way to draw attention to how desperate they are. So what's going to happen if the global food prices go up another 10 or 20% and food riots spread literally all over the globe during 2011? Now that's a few examples of what could possibly happen to set off an economic collapse in 2011. Let's hope none of those do happen. There's obviously quite a few more, but that's all we're going to cover now. I'll put up a part 2 to this probably and go over a few more possible scenarios of what happened. So that's it for now. Get yourself prepared. Hopefully it doesn't happen soon, but more than likely going to happen. Thanks for watching.